Hi everyone, let's take a look at Hugo's forehand. Hugo on the top is a big fan of Roger Federer, and I can tell just by watching him that he spent many hours copying Roger's technique. So let's see how close he gets. So Hugo's hitting on a wall, which is a great drill. I wish he had maybe a target up on the wall, but nevertheless, let's just take a look at his technique. So you can see when he's starting here, he's got his left hand on the throat of the racket, which is very, very similar to what Roger has here. So you can see they both have their left hand on the throat of that racket, and they're going to use that left arm to facilitate a good, strong shoulder turn. Now let's see who straightens out their left arm better as we go into this turn. So we'll put Roger in motion here, and you're going to see him release that left arm, and he's really going to stretch across with that left arm. And his left arm is pointing out to the side here now. So it's very much straight. And let's take a look at Hugo here. So Hugo releases that left arm. He's 90 degrees away from the wall. And you can see his left arm is not as straight as Federer's. So I think Hugo could do a better job of getting his left arm a little bit straighter across here, more like Roger Federer. Now, one thing you notice, both of them have their racket tips pointed off to the right. You can see Federer's is there and Hugo's is on this sort of angle. This is where there can be some fluctuation, and it's not really a big deal at all. Ideally, if you're trying to mimic the ATP forehand, you're going to have your angle off to the right, just like both of these players do. When you get into trouble is when your racket tip is pointing off this direction. So neither of these players have that going on, which is great. Now, as we go into this a little bit further into the racket drop, you're going to see Federer's going to drop his racket basically straight down to the ground. So his racket strings are facing down this way, and he's just going to drop this racket down here. And at this point, Roger's going to pull the racket handle towards the ball, and his racket's going to flip. So let's see how Hugo does this. His racket is going to drop down in a similar motion. It might not be exactly the same as Roger does, but his racket is also pointing, his racket strings are pointing down. He's dropping down to the ground right about here, and then he's going to pull his racket forward quickly into the flip. So you're going to see Roger's racket's going to pull very quickly right here. So that was it. It's just a few little frames. So we're here, one more frame, and then the flip there. So you can see he's now pulling that racket towards that ball. For Hugo, he's here, and then there's that flip right there. So now Roger's going to pull his racket out towards contact, and there we are at contact. Now his arm appears to be fairly straight, if not 99% or maybe almost totally straight on that forehand. Roger is known for hitting quite a few straight arm forehands. He doesn't hit all of them with a straight arm forehand, but many of his forehands are straight armed. Hugo, you can see he's also trying to mimic this. You can see his right arm is very straight here. So he's really getting great extension and leverage away from his body. And both of these guys have their eyes down towards the ball, which is great. And they're very focused on this contact point. Roger's going to drive through this ball, and you can see he's got long extension way out in front here. And he's about eye level over on the left side of his body as he follows through and rotates through this ball. And let's see what Hugo does. And he too is right about eye level on the left side of his body. So, you know, Hugo, great job. You're obviously copying one of the greatest forehands of all time, and you got a lot of the common elements that Roger does. The one thing I think you could improve on, and it's just a very minor detail, is just getting that left arm a little bit straighter to facilitate a little more energy into your forehand, and I think you'll find a little bit of benefit from that. And there he is with the finish, and let's allow Roger to follow through a little bit more too, and you can see both these guys are looking pretty similar right here, which is great. Their hips have rotated through, So you can see they could move to either direction if they had to after the stroke. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment below. And if you'd like to have your stroke analyzed, just let me know.